starting now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting in a hybrid model, both virtually and in person. The Public Works Commission is conducting this meeting June 14th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Zoom platform and in person in accordance with the town's policy directive and guidelines issued on April 1st, 2020 and amended on May 7th. I ask that all Public Works Commissioners, town staff, and presenters activate their video and mute their microphone unless they have something to say or are participating in committee dialogue. For members of the public, when I open the meeting to public comment, in order to be recognized, please use the raise hand option in Zoom or use *9 by phone. If you are recognized, please state your name and address. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on the town's website. I, Andrea Solomon, hereby call this meeting to order. All commission votes will be taken via roll. Actually, we don't have to do that via roll call. We can do it in person. We will start with an attendance roll call of commissioners. When I announce your name, please reply. Jeff Bosser.
Present.
David DeLong.
Present.
Andrea Solomon, present. So now we'll review the approved minutes from the May 10th, 2023 Public Works Commission meeting. Any comments?
I defer to you. I wasn't.
Oh, right, you were not here.
I reviewed them.
Okay, move on.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the May meeting.
I second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now for the calendar. Review calendar for future meetings. So we might get the summer off.
That's the idea. You'll see, again, we identify those items that are generally seasonal. Sometimes they're more time sensitive than others. But, you know, for the most part, the summer we intend to, by design, keep it light for the commission. If there's a need to call a meeting, we'll give you, plenty of notice, but there could be unanticipated needs or actions that require your attention. So we bring you back, but there's nothing planned at this point, just so you're aware. And then, we will sort of launch into, the fall where we really start our capital planning and, kind of updates on where we're heading.
Okay. So if there's no meetings in the summer, the next one will be September 13th, 2023. Okay, so we'll move on to the solid waste recycling rate public hearing. I, Andrea Solomon. Oh, can I make the motion? Or does anyone want to move to open the public meeting?
407.
Well, we are right now, it's 4:06. We just have a few minutes and then we'll open that meeting. What we're waiting, I'm wondering if there's anything else on the calendar that I want to sort of call out to your attention. I will say, and sort of just as a sort of in the event there may be some activities you hear about with some larger development over the summer that may require some engagement with the Public Works Commission. My understanding is more than likely that would be hitting in the fall, but I would say just those are the sorts of things that it may be more time sensitive than we've seen, but at this point, I think it might be kind of a fall issue. The other thing is with the director's report, what you're going to hear is a little bit of an overview. We're hoping to have some time so that you can get an update as far as what activities are going to be keeping Public Works busy over the summer. And so I think we may have some time on we're hoping today to be able to give you a little bit of a more in-depth director's report. So, and I'm going to bring up, I just need to, does anybody have questions on the agenda, schedules, anything? We're still, intend to meet at 4 to 6 o'clock. Every other Wednesday has been working well.
Yeah.
And that's been appreciated by staff, who many are here and available and appreciate that convenience too. So. Let's see. As just a point of information that I'd like to sort of call out too, was just information not for discussion tonight, the MBTA sort of notice that was included in the packet. It's just sort of, if you look, I'd just call your attention to that. It's not something we're going to be talking about today, but it's, yeah. I just think it's worth knowing that, you know, the community is going to be engaged in these MBTA community outreach efforts. And so this is sort of their notice to the various boards and committees to, you know, have it on your radar. So I just would, we're not talking about it tonight, but there's likely to be some discussions in the future. Okay. Okay. And with that, I think we're kind of, you know, close to getting this hearing underway. So if you want to engage in that, I think we're pretty much there.
Okay, so 409. Would anyone like to move to open the public hearing for the
To open
2024 solid waste recycling
the
rate?
solid waste and recycling. Solid waste and recycling rate hearing. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so this presentation is by Aaron.
Okay, Aaron, I'm looking for is the memo, is the presentation. Linda, can you tell me, is the presentation in the file? Are you there?
I am. Let me look. I thought it was in the file. It'll be there in just a minute.
Okay, thank you. All right, Aaron, if you can just sort of start, you know, kicking off we'll get to the slides, but just sort of talk.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Aaron McCloskey, Highway and Ground Superintendent. The department is going to be recommending a rate increase this evening, and the slides will kind of go over some of the background information that leads into why the decision was made, and an overview of the program. The commission might remember back in February, I presented a slide deck on the Solid Waste Recycling Enterprise Fund, talked a lot about the program, and kind of put out that there would be an anticipated rate increase in late spring. It would be effective from September 1st. So that's what we're proposing this evening.
All right, and I got the slideshow here. I will share. You can share the screen. Dave, this is all going back to your having a technology person
Really.
available. So Linda, I need the ability to share the screen. Linda, can you help us
Sitting
with
there,
the
yeah.
okay.
Share screen.
There you go.
Okay. So Linda, you need to allow me to share the screen. So if you unshare. Bob, you might want to sort of help. Okay.
Crash the whole thing if I do.
All right. So Linda, can you unshare your screen?
Hang on.
Okay.
So I pause my share. Then it says new share.
Well, Linda is getting the problem is I don't have the ability to share my screen. She said, don't have the privilege yet, and we're on her screen. Linda, can you hit trying to find where you are. If you go and open this PowerPoint on your computer, we'll see it.
Okay, yep.
Okay, open that up. Yeah.
Are you seeing that on my end?
No, not yet. No.
Should be there now. So share screen.
We don't.
Probably has multiple screens.
Yeah, I think you have multiple screens open. Okay, so maybe I can share the screen at this point. So let me try this. You have to stop sharing yours. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want.
All right. Sorry about that, Aaron. So now we are share.
Is it fine? Yep. Should be fine now. So what happened? I was still sharing?
All right, so,
Okay, here we go.
so this is, again, first slide, just the mission of the solid waste recycling program, provide an efficient, environmentally sound, cost-effective solid waste collection. Not sure what that last word is, it's being blocked, but a recycling program for the town of Concord. Next slide, please, Alan. Is there a way can you minimize?
Can you minimize that thing on the right?
Here we go. I got it. Oh, on that screen, yes.
Yeah.
You got it.
All right, so this is a little bit of overview of the program and some of the services that we offer. So weekly collection is a pay-as-you-throw program, which means you're opting in. The more solid waste that you generate, the more you have to pay to get rid of that your curbside. Environmentally sustainable program for another number of reasons. We offer recycling. We also offer a lot of not just curbside recycling, but a lot of recycling opportunities to get rid of wide variety of waste, including our annual drop-off swap-off event, which was just hosted at this site last month. It's an economical program. We offer household hazardous waste collection. So if you participate in the program, you're able to participate in our regional hazardous waste disposal program as well. We have a semi-annual billing that goes out, so people can sign up for 6 months at periods at a time. Kind of allows folks to kind of opt in and then opt out if they're to leave the town for a long period of time for vacation or second property. Then we have some online billing and payment options that we offer to residents. Excellent. So all the financials that I'm going to cover are very similar to what was covered in February. So hopefully it's not too much of a surprise, but this one shows there's always some recycling fund expenditures. So we're showing operating revenue versus our operating expenses. And then kind of the net income you can see for FY24 historically, and then FY24 currently where we're budgeting a deficit. And then what we've seen is the linear line, you have the fund balance. So what that is essentially it's kind of like retained earnings, but it's balance that we've had that we're trying to draw down. We haven't had a rate increase since 2021. And the reason for that is we had a significant fund balance, which the town has told us, spend that down. We're doing that, but we're projecting that we're gonna get to the point where we're close to zero that in the next year or so if we don't put in some type of increase. So that's one of the reasons. If you continue on, Alan. So this is just showing an annual statistic here of how much waste did we throw out. You can see here across the Commonwealth. And I don't know if you have ability to mute anybody else that's not talking. We're getting some feedback in the room, but so this shows the Commonwealth. Next slide. Okay. Go back one more slide.
Go up.
Yeah, right here. So this is zooming up Concord right here. You can see, we're in that area. We're generating just over 1,500 pounds per household per year. Specifically, we're generating every household is about 1385 is on average versus based on the number of customers we have of how many pounds of solid waste that we're disposing of every year. Or last year. In 2021, excuse me. Recycling tonnage, this shows our tonnage, solid waste versus recycling, and our recycling rate is the bar or the linear line that's on the graph. So you can see here we have a pretty good recycling rate, just under 40%, which is one of the highest in the area, which is a good program. Obviously, the way that our program is fee structure is set up, it incentivizes recycling because it's like recycling is not a pay as you throw, which is the solid waste is pay as you throw. So the more recycling you put out, you're not necessarily being charged for it. So this is showing the percentage of disposal costs. So this is a breakdown of the percentage of how much it costs to fund recycling versus how much it costs to fund solid waste. And if you look historically on this, you can see that the total cost of the program, majority of the cost historically has been solid waste. And you can see that goes back to early 2022. And as recent last fall, we're starting to see that swing change. Recycling is no longer cost effective. The town, like I said before, is not making any money back. We're not getting any funds back for the recycling as a commodity. It's costing a lot of money to recycle, and I'll go into those numbers here in a little bit. But you can see the cost breakdown. It's pretty close to almost, it's close to approaching 50% for solid waste and recycling, where historically it was we were getting money back. So what do we want to do? Right now, currently we have a 2-year contract. It expires in fall of 2024. And it's increasingly expensive for recycling market. So we really have to look at, how that is kind of set up. Moving forward right now, we currently have dual stream recycling, which means we have 3 trucks in town every day. 1 truck is picking up solid waste. 1 truck is picking up paper and cardboard, and another truck is picking up commingled recyclables like plastics, glass, and metal. And they are going to 3 different places. Although the paper truck is going to Springfield every day. The solid waste truck goes to Fitchburg every day, and the commingled goes to Avon, with 3 different locations. So we really have to look at our program. We're the last community to have the dual stream recycling. We work closely with our counterparts, or our not counterparts, our resources at DEP, who advise us on our programs, best practices, obviously incentivize pay as you throw and recycling and creative programs to minimize materials that end up at a landfill. Dual stream, it was great years ago. Now it's adding to our carbon footprint. It's adding to the cost of the program, and we're really being urged strongly to look at other alternative solutions. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to continue to do. We really got to look at the cost of the program. Are we competitive? Or I don't. Folks are often say they're willing to pay more for the better service, right? Well, right now we're paying more for a service that's not considered top tier kind of anymore. We really need to look at that and kind of make the best recommendation possible to the commission and to the town. We want to obviously reduce our carbon footprint, right? If we can get 1 of those 3 trucks, or maybe 2 of those, even 2 trucks off the road, and reduce the amount of fuel that we're using, right? We can, get a different type of truck that maybe has alternative fuel instead of being diesel fueled, right? Those are things that we can do if we change the program. We can't do them right now. Competitive pricing, like I said, we have, close to 5,500 customers that could be eligible to opt in for our program. Right now, we're about 3,400 customers that opt in for our program. So if we're more competitive, we can get more people to pay for the program, and then it lessens the cost for everybody, right? And we'll be negotiating a new contract. So we're gonna be working with DEP on getting a consultant in here. They're already working with us and giving us some guidance, and we'll be working with them to draft that request for proposals from the different vendors that offer solid waste recycling services in the area. Town has had contracts with Waste Management for over 20 years. Great relationship. They provide a great service to the town, very responsive, great to work with. But there are other vendors out there, and we really need to see, what can we do to get the best contract for the type of services that the town wants. We're looking hard at that, and we're going to be focusing on that. Justine St. John, who's here, she's taking a lead on that piece, and work closely with DEP move that initiative forward. We'll be working on that over the next 9 months. Slide, please. Thank you. This is kind of main focus of why we're here is to, we're making a recommendation to the commission to set a new rate. This slide shows kind of breakdown of FY22, what we're proposing for FY22, FY23, we're proposing for FY24. Like I said, we haven't had a rate increase since 21. Collection fee, and this basically is the opt-in cost. So you said before, 6-month program. So this is for 12 months. If you would opt in for 12 months, total cost to a customer. So currently $322 to opt in. We're proposing, raising that to $355. So we're just proposing to rate increase the collection fee, not the tag fee, not the disposal fee. So it's a pay-as-you-throw program. So you have to opt in for solid waste and recycling, and then purchase the tag. The tag prices will stay the same, $1.80 per tag, and $44.80 for a barrel sticker that goes on a 36-gallon barrel that can be picked up weekly. Average cost for solid waste recycling customers. So a previous survey that was done showed that on average, residents of Concord throw out 1.36 bags or barrels per week. So a little bit more than a barrel. So that means some weeks, you're throwing out, you might be one bag, and then it's 2 bags and back to 1 bag. So the average over the year is 1.3 is what we've seen. So the total cost for the average customer is going to go from $449.30 to $482.30. We do also have a recycle only option, right? So if folks want to opt in for a collection of just recycling, which we have customers that do that. There's 79 of them currently in town that have just recycling picked up curbside. The current cost of that program is $162. We're proposing increasing that to $178. And that's
That's just additional.
okay. You can go back to the screen. Thank you. So this is the the focus here, and that's all I have for my presentation, Matt. Happy to
Okay.
answer questions.
Okay.
There are any.
And Weber has joined us, so
Sorry.
we have 4 commissioners now. Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have several questions. What's the goal of the fund balance? I don't know what you call this fund that you've been running, that's been going down, given the new costs of recycling universe or world. Is there a goal for that? What we should have in kind of a.
So the answer really depends, right? So when we look at changing the program, depending on what we recommend, there could be a significant capital investment or upfront cost associated with that. For example, if we were to go from to a fully automated system, there might be some significant capital costs for a toter, right? A toter for every customer. So if we were to purchase those toters and pay out of pocket ahead of time, we would want a capital for that. We could use the fund balance for that. We could decide to negotiate the cost of the toters into a contract. So there would be no capital investment. So we are trying to should have historically trying to be burning it down. I think from the upper 400,000s down to closer to where are we at now, Bob, off the top of your head, do you know? Fund balance.
We're right around 450, I think.
Yeah.
Projecting the end of this year.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot until you know the kind of how fluid the market has been. And we are, looking at, we've extended the existing contract for 2 years because we know there's going to be significant investment from many of the vendors to provide a very different model. And so we don't know what that's going to be, but that's to some degree a buffer, from the existing, customer ratepayer. As Aaron said, if there's capital needs, in fact, Justine, I don't know if you might want to mention. So Justine St. John has been, stepped over the last year to really take care of the day-to-day, operations management. But didn't you mention something about DEP working with them potentially and what that may allow us for maybe future capital?
So there's a couple parts of it. So we'll be working, we're applying for a technical assistance grant with Mass DEP to assist with the evaluation of the pay-as-you-throw program in general. And that will help form a lot of the decisions, a lot of the information moving forward. And what we're looking at as far as the fund balance goes is whether there's an industry standard for that, as far as, what is a good practice to have as opposed to having too much or too little. So we're hoping that will come out with our information with the grant.
Thank you. Is it, am I right in assuming that this price structure here and the increase is really sort of a bridge year? I mean, you're thinking the future, there's going to be some different model.
Correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're in a 2-year contract right now. Year 1 was an 11% increase over the previous contract. Next year is a 5% increase. And we don't know what the subsequent years are going to be because we haven't negotiated that contract yet. So this is to get us through for that next 5% increase of FY24.
Okay, and my last question is, have you looked at the incentives? What incentives people have to use the competitor, the town's competitor? Because clearly you said there's a, percentage of people
There is.
why
So-
do people use the other guys?
I would say, like, I'm not going to speak for those individuals.
Yeah, of
but
course.
From what I've heard, so our program is pretty straightforward. The resident has to bring the barrel or their bag or their toter, right? Whatever they're putting their trash in, and all their recyclable materials to the curb themselves. Now, their house might be 50 feet away from the curb. They might be 500 feet away from the curb. It might be a quarter mile away from the curb, right? Waste management does not drive down driveways. They drive down the street, and if it's right there, they will pick it up. So one thing that we've heard is that, there are a number of
Residents.
different type of residents in the community, right? Longer driveway. Some people don't want to take the trash out of their garage and bring it to the curbside, or it might be too long walk, or they're not able to, right? So a lot of those customers that have those situations or those needs will opt out for a private hauler that will back down a driveway or go right up to the house and take the trash out.
So it's logical.
Yeah.
This
Different levels of customer service for private
Sure.
contractors.
Okay.
And they also offer different opportunities. Right now, we don't provide toters. Private haulers often provide toters. Some people like having the wheels, the toters on the 2 wheels that they can just tip back and roll down. That's something that the town currently provides.
Thank you.
Just wanted to clarify something I think I heard, but also so the public understands, and actually it's gonna go to that table you just had up that you just closed down.
Let me.
If I heard you correctly, Aaron, we have an increase since fiscal year 21.
Correct.
So that 162 has been consistent since 21. So there's been no increase,
Correct.
but our costs that we're paying the vendor have gone up.
That's correct.
He said it's gonna go up 5% in 24. It was 11% last year.
Correct.
And before that, was there an increase?
I don't know what that was, but there was some time.
It was more, it
So-
was steadier, but yes.
So I think it's important everybody understands that rates haven't gone up for 3 years, even though the cost of the town has gone up.
Right.
That's right.
Can we go back to that slide with budget balance and where we draw against the reserve? Here.
Yep.
So you're drawing how much, 400,000 against the reserve? What is this negative number?
So the negative is going to be the difference between the revenue
Yeah,
and the expenses.
so that just means that's what we draw against.
Correct.
So we are running about a $400,000 structural deficit, even with the new pricing
For next year.
for next year.
Correct.
No.
That's correct.
So that is 400,000 over 2 million, so that is a 20%. So just to think about, because if the reserves are drawn, we have to balance our pricing, and if the cost stays the same, you might have to face a 20% kind of a shortfall or increase the prices by 20%.
And that's where we need to really be
That's why
efficient.
we
with
have
what
to
we-
very
exactly.
efficiently renegotiate and find a new thing, otherwise the prices would go up.
Exactly. And we've been somewhat reluctant to change the entire plan because 1, customers like the plan. 2, we've gone through a lot through COVID where just with staffing to get our arms around kind of what the future needs are. And 3, we have the China sword policy on the recyclables and cardboard activity. So it's been a very volatile market. We're not alone, but I think the challenge for Concord is our old way of doing it really does need to be revamped. And, every indicator says that if we do things differently, we should be able to sort of be much more competitive. And so, it goes back to Dave's question, why a reserve? Well, it was building up and we're drawing from it. It's important deficit for FY24, but there's still a balance. And so
Yeah,
that
but
has to
when-
happen.
When the balance is gone,
Exactly.
so
Our
we are
buffer
having a
is gone.
structural 20% deficit,
Exactly.
which you can either compensate for having a better contract, that means less cost, or increase the prices.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. I'd also note that, well, I say we will be working with DEP. We'll also be working with the group Reuse It. Many of you might be familiar with that group. It's a we have a public-private partnership with them. I work closely with them for different events like drop off, swap off. We also work closely with them, working with them on, looking at the initiatives. What do the residents of Concord want for services, type of services? And there's a board meeting last night. Justine attended and talked at length about those topics. And we'll continue to work closely with that resident group to kind of formulate a plan of how best to move forward.
Any other comments?
From the commission.
Any from the public?
Here, you make sure.
Oh, anyone from the public have a comment or anyone?
Question for the.
I don't see anyone's hand.
I don't see any
I don't know if I
hands.
can see everybody.
No. Okay, I see Carlin Reed, yeah.
Sorry about that late poll. Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End. Just a question, how many people are recycling only?
79 residents.
What's out of the total 3,200?
3,486 trash and recycling and 79 recycling only.
Got it. Thank you. That's it.
Okay,
You have
anyone?
one more question.
Oh, one more.
How
Oh, sorry.
the bio-recycling is going. Composting.
So that is a separate program managed outside of Public Works.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
It was,
Seems to be.
I think, I think that's an initiative I think was pushed through with sustainability.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Director.
It was a pilot and I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure. And we've also had, this is another situation, Dave, up here, transitional personnel. We've had,
Yeah.
we have a relatively new sustainability director on board and, I don't think we've
Yes,
had a chance to.
that's been something that's been outside of Public Works and really there's a current vendor that provides curbside service in the community. It's a direct that contracts directly with the private residents and the
Right.
towns involved in. The town has that pilot program with a couple of different locations throughout town where folks can compost, but that's separate.
We
from this.
use it and we like it a lot. It's changed our whole, in fact, I put only one barrel every 2 weeks of trash now
Mhm.
because we compost so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's been great for us.
And the retail and takeout places are catching on to compostable
Mm,
containers
Yeah.
in a big way. It's kind of fun to watch.
Okay, is that everyone? That's everyone. All right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I, Jeff Vassar, hereby move to close the public hearing for the fiscal year 24 solid waste and recycling rates.
Do we have to vote for anything? Or-
Yes, after we close the hearing.
Oh, we have to close the hearing first.
Yep.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye. No one's against. All right. And would anyone like to draft a motion to accept these rates?
Yes,
Oh. Okay.
I've got the script in front of me. I, Jeff Vassar, hereby make a motion to adjust the curbside subscription rate from $322 to $355 annually for solid waste and recycling subscribers, and from $162 to $178 annually for recycling only subscribers, effective March 1st, 2023. The cost of weekly disposal bags will remain at $1.80 each, and the cost of 6-month barrel stickers will remain at $46.80.
All in favor?
A second.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, now all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. No one's against. Great, thanks, Erin.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Sorry about the technical difficulty, but
Worked out.
we've got to have that backup plan. Today we talked.
So now we're on to D2. So we have Warner's Fund with Delia K, alternatives analysis.
Let's see.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Delia.
All right, Delia, give me 1 second to share the screen. There. There, there. There. Okay. Let's see.
I showed you the way.
Yeah, I'm always, my in PDF from
Should be
my,
right at the- Should be right at the left side.
you know, I'm working in the PowerPoint, usually I'm in PDF, so.
Right, right.
that's really good.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I'm Delia Kay. I'm the Natural Resources Director for the town, and thank you for allowing me to come and talk to you a little bit about Warner's Pond. I just wanted to give you an update on where things are, background and an update. Next slide, please. So I think everybody is familiar with Warner's Pond. It's a 54-acre pond that was created in 1857 by damming the Neshoba Brook. We all know Warner's Pond Dam. That's at the intersection of Commonwealth Ave, kind of across from the former gas station there. There are 3 islands. Scout Island is probably the most important one that is owned by the Boy Scouts of America. And the watershed is outlined in blue on this graphic here. It is a 47 square mile watershed, which is huge. It's huge. It's 600 to 1 ratio, and that's one of the challenges that we're facing. The pond now is maximum depth of about 12 feet. The average depth is less than 5. Next slide, please. And the town owns the dam, which is shown in the top photograph, as well as the pond. And there are 3 access points around the pond. Giroux Park is up on the north, it's right under the Talking, where Talking Media is in the upper right graphic. Commonwealth Ave access is on the eastern side of the pond, and Pond Street is on the southern side of the pond. So we have those 3 access points, as well as the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, which is immediately to the north of the Giroux parcel, and you can see it.
I can maybe get to. Okay.
Can you sketch out where where Bruce Freeman is?
Slowly getting up here.
Yeah,
Oh, it keeps coming off the,
or just even on that one is good too.
stopping me right here.
Okay. So Warner's Pond, these 2 graphics on the right are aerial photographs of Warner's Pond. One is taken outside of the growing season and shows a pretty, open pond. And then the second one is taken later in the growing season, that's probably an August photograph. And you can see that it's full of growth. And the reason for that is driven by 2 things. First of all, it's very large watershed, and the second is the impounding nature of the dam, which causes, as the sediments flow into the pond, everything slows down when it hits the pond, and so all the sediments drop out. And that has caused the pond to fill in over time. And eutrophication, I'm sure you're aware, is a process whereby excess sediments and nutrients fill in a system, and they create conditions that are very favorable to aquatic invasive plants. And so you just have these deep mucky sediments, very shallow waters. And so the light can penetrate down through the water column to the sediment, and that seeds are just, constantly coming in from upstream. And it allows that light penetration allows those plants to grow up. And so we have severe eutrophication, and that has reduced the ecological health of the system as well as the recreational opportunities at the pond. So we've known about this for some time. It's been going on since about the 80s. And in 2012, we had a watershed management plan completed that really evaluated, the state of the pond, how it got to the point that it got to, and what the problems are. And this phosphorus loading of 5.4 tons a year it's an insanely high amount of loading into the system, and that's obviously a problem. And the watershed management plan also looked at what alternatives we could pursue to address this eutrophication problem with the goal of achieving, better ecological health and recreational capacity. Hydro raking was looked at, herbicides was looked at, drawdown was looked at, benthic barriers. All of these were alternatives that were evaluated, and dredging was identified as, I should say, the most cost-effective and long-term approach to achieving our project goals. And so to that end, we proceeded forward with that, had a dredge feasibility study completed in 2018, and it identified a limited dredging. So the North Dredge area is, looking at providing better opportunities from Giroux, and the South Dredge area was obviously to allow access off the Commonwealth Ave and to Scout Island. And so that's about a 7.5 acre dredge footprint, and it was 35,000 yards of material. And so we put out a bid last year after securing local, state, and federal permits. Dredging is not it's not a straightforward project.
Yeah.
And we received one bid. We received a second one late, and the first bid was 9.5 million, and the second one was about 8.5 million. That is to dredge 7.5 acres of Warner's Pond. So we had secured about 2.5 million, and the 2019 cost estimates were about 2 million. The August cost estimates were closer to 3. So we were thinking, well, if it's 3, then we'll see if CPA will fund it, but it came in at 9, and that really just, that does not feel like a very cost-effective solution anymore. So we went back to the drawing board, and I worked with a consultant to identify dam removal and a modified dredging approach. And that so one of the reasons the cost for the bid was so high was the sediment removal. It was going to be pumped out of the pond into the prison farm field to the northwest of the pond. It was going to dry out there, and then it was going to be trucked over to NCI prison for their use at the farm. We can't sell it. We can't use it as fill. It's muck. So it's all unconsolidated muck. So we looked at, could we give it to StarMet or sell it to, whatever, we'd give it to you. But the prison was willing to take it. Anyway, the cost of sediment, that dewatering and then moving it, the sediment removal movement cost was exorbitantly high. So that was why we came up with that, sort of modify the dredging to push the sediments into the different areas of the pond.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, of course.
Question. What is our purpose today in listening? Is this
It's an
informational
update.
or are we
It's an
actually?
update information. It's a good question. This is likely going to go to town meeting, and Delia is trying to get education outreach, and
Okay.
the Public Works Commission will, so they're just sort of background.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah.
Very cool.
So I should have said that from the beginning.
Thank you.
So dam removal, partial dredging, and no action. And the alternatives analysis report is on our website. Doesn't say draft anymore. And it goes through in great detail on both of all 3 of these alternatives. Also, as part of that report, we did a lot of community outreach. We had 2 public meetings that were both attended by about 150 people. We had a community survey that we took input from, and over 200 people responded to that. So it's fascinating information. Next slide, please.
It's right on the website too.
Yeah. So dam removal, as I said, was identified as the preferred alternative, and the concept drawing on the left shows what that might look like. So the dark blue is the existing stream channel, the dark green is the existing wetlands, and the lighter blue is the conceptual analysis of what the restored channel would look like once the dam is removed. And then the light green is all the additional wetlands that would be created under that dam removal alternative. So interestingly, up at Giroux, there is still about a 4.5 acre pond that would remain under the dam removal alternative. That's bigger than McCone Pond, which is about 3.5 acres. Part of the reason for the existence of that pond may be because there's a massive 48-inch, I think it's 48, might be 36-inch outfall that takes stormwater flow from Route 2 and and dumps it right into the pond. We have looked at pulling that back, and it's not feasible from a size and depth consideration. So one of the engineers believes that that pond has so much scour created from that outfall that it will just continue to sort of be in its ponded condition, no matter what anybody ever did.
What's scour?
Scours when you have, imagine you have water, you have a closed pipe and it's pouring into, it's above a stream bed, and you open that pipe fast and all the water pushes out and it sort of gouges out a pool. So scouring is Steve, our town engineer, could give a much more engineering description.
Erosion, pretty much.
Okay.
Thank you. And then on the right is a visual rendering of what the dam removal alternative would look like as we look at it from Giroux Park. Next slide, please. So these were conceptual costs that were identified. I don't want to go through the nuts and bolts of this, but just to sort of point out that from the next phase of additional data collection through post-construction monitoring, the range of costs would be between $2.5 and $3.3 million. Next slide, please.
That's for the dam removal.
That is for the dam removal. And I'm sorry, if you could go back one slide. I should say that there are there's at least 8 state federal agencies that will provide funding for dam removal. There's the Division of Ecological Restoration. There is MVP grants, Massachusetts Dam Removal grants, Environmental Trust grants, NOAA's River Restoration grants, NOAA's Fish Passage Restoration through Barrier Removal, and a couple of others. So that nobody wants to fund dredging. So the town agreed through town meeting appropriations to put this towards it when it seems like it was making sense. I think we can recoup a lot of those costs that have been appropriated by pursuing, aggressively pursuing grant materials. And then I also just want to say that, this is in the report, but the reason that the report identified dam removal as the best alternative was that it is the one alternative that most fully addresses the causes of the existing impairments at Warner's Pond. It's climate resilient. It removes the liability and the cost of future maintenance of the dam, as well as our costs for invasive species removal projects. We wouldn't have to do anything in the foreseeable future to manage, either the dam or, the pond itself. It's very favorably reviewed by regulatory agencies, whereas dredging is much more challenging. There are fewer construction challenges that could adversely affect the outcome of what we're trying to accomplish. And the community survey respondents expressed the most support, which is 54%, and the least opposition of 32% to the dam removal alternative. And that was from the community survey that we had done. So thank you. I think that is maybe the next slide is just the next steps, what we're looking to do. We're preparing a request for proposals right now basically to advance the design for the dam removal option. So these are the tasks that we would be including in here. And I do want to point out that one of the ones that we think is very important, there's several in here, but we want to evaluate how dam removal fits into the context of our town planning documents like Envision Concord and hazard mitigation planning, and there are others. We also would like to take the time, we, as I said, received over 200 comments, and we want to have the consultants not respond to every single comment, because I think that would be a lot, but we'll develop sort of categories of those comments. And so we'll have the consultant address and respond to those concerns. I mean, a lot of people asked about what's the recreational opportunities going to be like, and I think we need to be able to speak to that. A few people have asked about, could you do a combined dredging and dam removal? And I think we need to look at these things. So those will be in the bid and see what the numbers come back. I hope to have somebody on board in September with the goal of having that report completed by next spring. And then going to town meeting with a dam removal warrant article. And at that time, or before town meeting, I would like to come back to the Public Works Commission for the board's support. And I should mention, as we're going through this process, I don't see this as just a Natural Resources Commission project anymore. This is a much broader, which is why I think it should go to town meeting. And for this alternatives analysis report, I've been working with the engineering division. So Justin Richardson, the assistant town engineer, has been very involved. We meet monthly with the consultant and the team, and also Anna McEwen, I can never pronounce her last name. Thank you, McEwen, who's the recreation director, because these are obviously clear nexus, points of intersection. And I think that's it for my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
If I could, this is fascinating. Couple questions. One is, if the dam's removed, and you mentioned the wetland areas, and you mentioned hazard mitigation plan, and climate resilience, so I'm assuming, or maybe incorrectly assuming, that that area then becomes a great mitigation to flood conditions.
So that's such a great question. And Alan, if you can go up to the two concepts, go up one more, right? So we believe that to be the case, that and part of this analysis will include an H&H modeling, so hydraulic hydrologic analysis. And it will be looking at what potential flood compensatory storage would be provided under the 5, the 10, the 100 and 500-year storms. And I think you will see that there's an improvement. That's our preliminary understanding right now.
Second question, as you mentioned, the MassDOT has a 3648 pipe that empties into this area, and they're looking at redoing the rotary. Are hoping they're looking at attenuating their stormwater so they don't have to dump as much into this no matter what happens.
Correct. So as I understand it, that is off the tip. It was on the transportation improvement plan, but it's been off it for
Okay.
some time.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody is aware of whether the the Route 2 MCI Rotary project is the tip is a 20-year plan. But I completely agree that when that gets evaluated, and they will have to demonstrate under the stormwater management standards,
Yeah.
that they are improving an existing condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, last question. So if it is off the tip, MassDOT's doing stormwater mitigation all over the state. I don't know if anybody has made a request that this is an important item for them to look at, because there's plenty of land here to, in my opinion, to try to mitigate the outfall.
Right.
State-owned land
So,
between
right.
corrections and other MassDOT owns property themselves where they could be doing some.
Right. I mean, I
Potential,
think that's right. As I said, we did have, when we were working with the consultant on the Bruce Freeman section that goes to the north of
Yep.
Warner's, we asked them to look at that because we were aware that that was there. And the Giroux parcel, I mean, it would have taken up, I forget what percentage, but it was substantial. And the grades didn't work, but if it were pulled even further back, that might be a possibility, but it's going to be a big basin. Yeah. Of existing farm fields, but they will need to do something when that is reconstructed.
Editorial comment. It's a shame that a town-owned resource has to accept that runoff from a
100%.
state facility with no mitigation, no whatever retention to help that sediment settle out before it comes into our resource.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
I have some questions. This is great. It's really interesting. First of all, any assumptions made about the impact on roads in the town of Concord, like the culvert under Commonwealth Avenue? When I'm just making this up, or under Elms, what are the culverts or underpasses that will be where the river flows downstream of taking the dam? Is that relevant at all?
Yeah, so it would be, so all the infrastructure that would be affected by this has been preliminarily looked at and would be further looked at under the next phase. Any dam removal that is permitted would have to be done in a controlled fashion so that there is no downstream impacts to, I mean, you probably recall when the dam was replaced, that the Porta Dam, the contractor's Porta Dam failed. And that was a big pulse of water that hit right just upstream of the Neshoba Brook Bakery and took out a section of wall because of the, that amount of water. So you can't just pull the dam.
Yeah, right.
So the impacts, they will be evaluated, and the dam removal will be done in very, very controlled
So
fashion.
DPW is on that.
Yeah, so as Delia said, this is sort of a town initiative. This alternative is only just being realized based on the cost for dredging. And so engineering is involved and has just sort of done an assessment of all our culverts, and they will be plugged in as this gets, momentum. And this is sort of the beginning, where you're getting the draft is just being removed from the report. So any mitigation, any impacts, engineering and or third party, engineers will be involved. Steve, go ahead.
Right, just to let you know, the first crossing there on Concord Ave, that's a state bridge, state-owned bridge.
Oh, great. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's a state process anyway.
That was Steve Dukran, town engineer. Yeah.
I'm making that comment. The other thing I wonder about as I look at this map, which looks great, or promising, is what assumptions do you make about what'll actually happen naturally when you remove this dam? Is that actually, can engineers or environmental engineers really pretty safely predict what the natural paths will be and how
So
much of
this
a pond will stick up, will?
We hope so. I
Entertain.
mean, that's.
I hope so.
I mean, this will be further evaluated. So one of the steps that will be undertaken in the next phase of the process is sediment transport modeling.
Yes.
And that will help understand, like, the sediment depths we know. What happens when, this volume of water is coming through? How deep is that channel going to be? How wide is it going to be? I mean, there's a very rough analysis that you could say that you could look upstream and downstream, and it's going to be very similar. So, and the downstream of, but then Neshoba Brook Bakery, it's, 40 feet wide there. The depth is of more concern, I think, because it gets very shallow.
Right.
Like last summer, it was very shallow with a drought.
Yeah.
So, but upstream is not so shallow. So it's interesting, and that will be further understood through this next phase.
Okay, because it's a great looking map, but you just wonder about how nature will actually play out.
Yeah, I mean, we believe that this is the historic channel that goes through the pond. This is
Yeah.
what it does, what it did prior to being dammed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, streams do move, especially when they've got floodplain areas to move within. But they will, they tend to sort of move in a sinuous fashion. You can see it even in glaciers. They do the same thing. So within that wetland system, I mean, it will be within that same general. But, I think the real concern from the recreational standpoint, because of Giroux and the amount of money that the town has put into that,
Yes.
is how big is that pond going to be?
Right.
And we want to really sort of understand that as well as part of this process.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have more question to Aaron, because we have to look at this, or if you ask our feedback, it's more from Public Works.
Mhm.
So what is Public Works kind of concerns or involvement? And so how is Public Works in the end affected by the dam removal?
The connection would be a couple things. One is we're responsible for the existing dam. So we were involved with sort of restoring that not too long ago. So just to be aware, I think part of it is, let's get all the issues on the table for discussion. One is, well, didn't the town just spend X on sort of upgrading, repairing that or improving it? That's going to be on the table. There is sort of, I can tell you that I know the universe on sort of environmental protection. There's a real interest in seeing dams removed wherever possible. So that's sort of a wave of interest. And I think this is consistent with that. Public Works is involved with stormwater management in the MS4, so I think we're going to have to kind of evaluate this. And I would also ask our staff, once we start looking at it, what credit can Concord get when it comes to sort of a more universal or integrated water resource, approaches? We should take advantage of those things. I mean, it's a bit of a game on stormwater, wastewater, drinking water. So we want to make sure that we capture this. If there's advantages to the town and it can be win-win-wins, then we want to make sure we're capturing them. Steve, Dukran, do you have any other thoughts as far as what you might want to offer?
We want to add, there's one big interest the Public Works has. Not only are we responsible for the maintenance of the dam, we have to do ongoing inspections. In fact, we just had one done, identifying any deficiencies. Right now, because it was restored not too long ago, the deficiencies are minor, like removal of small trees and so on. Left unattended, those will become big trees and threaten the structural integrity of the dam. But the big thing is dams do fail. And not only does it have a big watershed feeding the impoundment area, it has a big flood risk when it does fail. And so we also have to be, on every 5 years, I believe, we have to renew our environment emergency something plan.
Through the Office of Dam Safety, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emergency action plan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to do that, and we have to identify, again, what the risks are, because things change over time. We have new developments downstream and that kind of thing. And so,
And I would also just add, people probably remember in the early 2000s when the Taunton River Dam buckled. And it didn't fail, very fortunately. But the state then basically told every municipality, fix your dams. Or, I don't know what and Concord was under the gun to get that. And it, so that's why it was done then and done quite quickly. And I think it was about $1 million in construction costs for that dam replacement. So, I mean, we started that 2012 watershed management plan in 2010, and the dam had just been fixed. So it didn't seem like that was the time. But now that we are sort of at the stage where the pond is dying and we have run out of options, and this really is, I think it hits a lot of, relieves Public Works of the maintenance and the liability, concerns around a failure of the dam. It's climate resilient, it's so much better for fish and wildlife. And I believe the recreational opportunities will be enhanced as well. We just need to get more information on all of those things.
So can we, from a budget perspective, say, can you put a number behind the maintenance cost of the dam?
It could be over, we're talking about a long, sort of cost of, inspections and maintenance and ultimate replacement. I'm sure we could do that.
so the inspection just cost us some $5,000. And then the tree removal, we haven't put a cost to that yet. But that could run the order of $2,000. And if there are other things that come up in the future, cracks and so on that need to be repaired, it could be a growing cost.
Any effect on groundwater or?
Yeah, there would be some impacts, and that's, I think, where, the community is going to start looking at in detail and deal yet. We haven't really rolled our sleeves up. This is sort of, NRC is taking a lead. This is the introduction of, okay, we got a report. So we'll start looking at this. As far as groundwater impacts on our water supply would be our sort of primary interest, and not concerned about that just based on proximity of where this is in our sources of supply. But as far as impacts on groundwater, yes, and does that affect? I think, parts of the issues are, what about abutting properties? There's going to be interest there, so, there's signs over there already,
There are state
concern.
water
So,
spawn signs.
Yeah, so I think it's just important to
Losing waterfront properties.
Well, I think we can demonstrate, I have had a preliminary conversation with the town assessor. You will still see the river. So I think, what my sort of vision is, and this is preliminary because we do need a lot more information, but if you are familiar with the houses on Wood Street,
Mhm.
They have a view of the Sudbury River. They mow these river meadows once a year, and that's been done forever. That could be done here as a management so that it doesn't grow up to be a wooded wetland, which I mean, I love wetlands, obviously. But, that's an unusual, the wet meadow is an unusual and quite beautiful and ecologically valuable, wetland system. And that's a management issue.
If you did the dredging and filling option, how long do the results of that last?
That's a great question, and we don't know.
You don't know.
So part of the problem is that muck, it's very hard to contain it.
Mhm.
So, the consultant calculated that the initial dredging would last over 100 years based on the amount of sediment removed and the amount of sediment entering the pond on an annual basis. That's hard because it's very difficult to predict without really, I mean, the modeling that they do for this sediment transport modeling, which is different from the analysis, is so complicated. It's like a specialized engineering modeling. Like our engineering firm would sub that out.
Okay.
So it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Because you'd be dredging it, but you wouldn't be removing it. You'd be putting it in
Pushing
a
it around.
different place.
Right.
So,
And we hope, so that's going to be an adult in this bid, because I think it's a very expensive question to ask. But we would like to be able to answer that because people have asked. And I think it's as many questions as we can answer. I think we should.
you have had great feedback from the community. You have all the comments at the end of the report. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a lot. That's a lot to
You read it.
consider.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more question. How, with all the stuff that's flowing into the river, the pond now, creating this muck and the other invasives, why is this redesign getting rid of the, why are you so sure that will not continue and just eat up what's left and fill up the stream that remains? What is it that free flow is gonna promise to take it away or to keep the river healthy? Or what, the watershed that remains healthy?
Yeah. I mean, that an undammed river, I mean, it does carry sediments and they drop out in certain, conditions and they move in other conditions, but that is just the natural sort of rivering process. They keep moving downstream, some drop out. But I think, if you follow this upstream, I think you would see even downstream, although I feel like upstream is in some ways more informative. I'm not sure why I feel like that, but any river system that you walk along, I think if you sort of think about it from that question, you can visualize that, a lot of those sediments continue to move.
Okay.
Since so much of the watershed or almost all of it is outside of Concord, do you need like any buy-in or approval from those towns that
Nope.
it's in? Oh, okay.
We do
Solely-
have a dam upstream. That's the one for Nagog. That's for a water supply. And in fact,
Is
We
that
had to-
Neshoba?
what's that?
Is that Neshoba?
Yeah, that's up, so you can see Nagog in the region, the
Original
larger,
map.
yeah. Plan, but basically, and we had to refurbish the dam because of the Office of Dam Safety's requirements from the Taunton experience, but this is Nagog Pond right up here.
Oh, yes. Look at
Yeah.
that. There's Neshoba.
So
Matt, where are we? Where's this pond?
we're down here,
Oh, I see. Ah,
And there's the town line. You see that?
town line here.
okay. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, look at all the town. So no, in answer to your question, it is wholly and entirely owned by the town of Concord. The Natural Resources Commission has custody of the ponds. Public Works Commission has custody of the dam. And, the different stakeholders with, the Recreation Department holding Giroux. So, yeah.
Yeah. One less thing to worry about.
Right.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, thanks. Julie.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, so we'll move on to let's see. D3, State of water conservation declaration update. So we've, yeah, we have, we're right now under a watering restriction, yes, level 1. Due mostly to the Nagog Pond being offline. Not so much, the state isn't under any drought conditions.
Well, it's interesting, I'll offer. So basically, this is an update. Again, just a reminder, so the commission's aware of the increased restriction is now mandatory to 1 day. Ironically, I think I heard somebody where once Andrea declared this, Mother Nature stepped right in. So,
Yeah, really.
so now we know, don't mess with Andrea is what I hear. But with that said, the state has its drought task force, and they did convene recently. Primarily was driven by the warmer weather that we saw before the last couple of weeks. And there are certain areas of the state that are now reached, you know, they're going to make a declaration for a level 1, and that's why we sort of adjusted our levels so that people hear about it, they'll understand what it is. But regionally, this area isn't, you know, the north, you know, central Mass is not in a drought stage at this point. But you're going to hear more and more statewide messaging, and it's going to be a little bit confusing because the regions are different. The message is supposed to be, you know, sort of blanket. And, you know, I know the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs is very interested in making sure they communicate droughts when they happen early and often. So we're going to hear about it. But as Andrea mentioned, we needed to go here because of the fact that Nagog is still under, you know, the intake is still under repair. Jeff will talk about that in a little bit. But so this is just an update. And if you have-
The only comment I have is like, it would have been potentially good to communicate that it is because of the Nagog intake maintenance work.
Mhm.
It comes across in the public like it's a drought thing, and everyone is making kind of fun out of it.
That's right.
And the moment I get questions, say, "Well, it's maintenance on the intake," people say, "Okay, now I understand." So just a communication thing.
I totally agree, because
To make that more
yeah,
clear.
if you go to mass.gov where the drought conditions are highlighted on maps, like we're not under one.
That's right. That's right. And so it is important when there's an operational issue, and just so people, the general public understands, we cannot be less strict than the state. And what I'm going to explain is we're going to hear more and more that concerns Sven, and water suppliers are saying it across the state. It's not going to pass the sniff test to a lot of people when a drought condition exists. There's many indices that go into it.
Yeah.
It's not just what was the weather last week. And they're looking at prolonging the review period so they can, it's of how long, you know, where are we with you know, recharge over the past 6 months.
Okay.
And so it may be, you know, a distant memory, but they're still using that as part of their calculation. And it's just going to be a struggle, you know, but I do think when we do have an operational issue, you know, we you know, need to explain that. But, you know, this drought task force and how it's going to impact communities is going to raise a lot of attention. And so at least we're aware of that. But in any
They
event,
meet once a month right now, like their next meeting is July 6th.
I think so, yeah, and they just convened recently because of the poor weather. But once they convene, they tend to do it sort of fairly regularly, and we stay abreast of those things, and you know, we'll communicate, you know, to the commission and community as we hear updates.
There'll have to be a lot of public education on this because there's the whole notion of recency bias. You know, people look around and see rain all
Mhm.
week and you tell them it's a drought condition, setting aside the operational
Yeah.
piece. If it's recharge or something that's a legacy from 2 months ago or 3 months ago when there was no rain, whatever, people are gonna be like looking at you askance and
Yeah.
assuming, what are we talking about?
That's right.
So that credibility is going to be some system education about the system, you know,
This
the
is-
larger ecosystem.
This is
right?
statewide.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
statewide, and as a supplier who's actively involved with state initiatives
Sure.
and policies, I can tell you, we are trying.
Yeah,
We're not being heard,
yeah,
but we're trying. So,
yeah.
We can open this to public comments too, and I didn't do that on the Warner's Pond presentation, so I don't know if there's anyone who wanted to make a comment. Yes.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ackerman, I'm the select board liaison again. I did have a question about Warner's Pond, which is, if it goes to town meeting and we have grants to pay for the, dam removal, what will happen to the 2.5 million that we've already appropriated?
I'm sorry that Delia, who is sort of the, I'm sorry we didn't open that up, but there's gonna be opportunities for this input. This was literally just a debrief to get people on the page, so apologize we didn't, yeah.
Okay, that anyone online that needs has a comment question? I don't see any hands raised.
Okay,
Okay, so
we're good with that item, yeah?
onward to D4. So this is the letter that Sven and I worked on to give to the planning board. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. It kind of just hopefully accurately summarizes our discussion last time and just puts formally out there what our concerns are and maybe a little guideline for them to follow when they're considering the language of the bylaw.
I read it, I thought it was very well written.
Yes.
and Touched on the points we had talked about.
Okay.
I agree. In creating a letter, did it raise any questions for the two of you as you went through the process that you'd have for us, or do you feel comfortable?
I think it was quite straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of just took it from the last discussion. We had both listened to the
Good.
planning board meeting where they discussed it. I think it was important to clarify a couple things. One was that there was a comparison made to how well that process worked when they were evaluating 1134 Monument Street, but that process didn't actually follow
Yeah.
the process that would be followed if we were to take the draft bylaw as it is now. So there's some time considerations we just want them to be aware of. If a decision had to be made by public hearing, that could really delay the approval then for certain projects.
I think of the point to highlight that in the material provided for the last year's town meeting, it was clear that public safety should be taken into consideration in any rules. But that's one of the points we have. We just want to have some rules around what accommodation can be done for work in the interest of public safety.
Mhm.
And that's one of the orders we have in front of us right now.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for doing this. Yeah.
Sure. So if we do have a draft motion to accept the letter, if anyone wants to make it formally,
I
okay.
can try to. I hereby make the motion to finalize and submit this letter to the planning board for the purpose of ensuring public works interest are responsibly and respectfully captured as part of the procedural records.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Unanimously.
Good.
Okay, so now we're on to D5, the director's
This is
report.
very exciting.
Wow.
Really?
Did you ever have like 38 minutes or so?
Yes, yeah.
Uncontroversial so far,
See.
so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Someone good.
Now you know how to do it.
Yes, really, I've got some.
So, easier agenda, definitely.
Got a skill.
So I'm going to, let me bring up the PowerPoint for here. All right, Jeff, you want to come on up? We're going to start with water sewer. Just to give Jeff an opportunity, he always gets the short end of the schedule.
Yeah, really.
Here's Russ at the end.
So we're going to start with water sewer, and I got it up screen. Jeff, you want to tee us up with Okay, well, first I'll mention we did have sort of a nice Concord Public Works Week celebration. It's a national event and
Yeah, we didn't know ahead of time.
yeah, well, there was a proclamation and I'm sorry, I should have given you, it sort of comes up on you like, oh, that's the week. So
I know it's in the middle.
yeah, next time we'll do a little bit better sort of, we don't love to toot our own horn, quite
Well, it's
honestly.
not.
But
Did you guys go anywhere?
no, we actually did have a cookout for all of the staff, and it was the first time we've gotten together as a large group since COVID.
Mhm.
And it was kind of nice. It was fun to see everybody. What was really remarkable, and next time, maybe if we do something, we'll have the commission attend. The town manager did come by. But I did something kind of interesting where I brought up all the staff depending on
Oh, nice.
tenure. And
cool.
what was remarkable is I kind of had a gut sense of what was happening, but I just want to see it. We had, a half dozen or so people who were over 20 years, which is pretty remarkable. I was surprised. We've had a lot of retirements. So that was a little lean. What was remarkable was between 5 and 20 years. Very few.
It's a they call it they call it a barbell.
It's a barbell,
Yeah.
so we could see that barbell. And what was more remarkable was under 1 year.
Really? Wow.
It was just, which was why we needed the event. A lot of people hadn't even really seen people in different divisions. But, the challenge is, and this is how I put it to staff, which is basically in leadership, we have an opportunity to really, the culture, we can establish it. We have the leadership, we have people who are coming in, but we don't have an established culture that all the, 1 or 2 people are going to trickle in and sort of understand and adopt. Our work is cut out for us to do it properly and do it right, because it can go sideways quickly because there's a large group of new employees, or we can get them, sort of on the same page and working as a team. So that's sort of the challenge to the senior management, the people who come and talk with you, to try and make sure that we're doing it the right way. And, we will stay tuned on that.
Cool.
But basically, hopefully through the comments from the general public, we'll learn that we're doing it the right way, and you'll be the judge of that. So that's the Public Works Week. Let me go to, okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff Morosky, Water and Sewer Superintendent. As mentioned in the D3 item in the agenda, water conservation. It's Nagog Ponds that is our sole surface water supply, and that we use to take the edge off of the warm weather water demands. We have put this project out for the renewal of 1,400 linear feet of 16-inch diameter cast iron water intake pipe. Beyond this 1,400 feet, we had done in a phase 1 project. When this project was bid, it was bid with a target completion date of May 1st. And unfortunately, this has gone longer than was scheduled. But the contractor is making advances. What's most difficult, is this end piece. The gatehouse in the lower image is to the right of the screen. And where the red is was the extent of the phase 1 project. So this is 1,400 feet of 16-inch piping. And the further you get from the gatehouse, the more difficult it is to clean. So the contractor was able to clean this straight run and the 2 jogs close to the gatehouse fairly quickly. But as you go further away from the gatehouse, the jetter reel, the jetter is one of the primary cleaning tools that the contractor has been using. It's basically a water tank on wheels that has a pump on it that will pump water through a jetter hose. And the reel of hose is usually 700 feet. So we need to extend out 700 feet and then union together a second reel of hose and push out more. So it becomes more difficult to clean this, this extended area, but the contractor has been making good strides on that. We're hopeful that we'll be completing this cleaning process, which is the first step before we do the lining. The imagery up top, in the middle are two examples of what's called a pig. It would be a device that's installed inside the pipe, and it would clear off anything that's around the pipe wall. That's a drawing a blank on it, Alan. It's the it's a hoist.
Yeah.
This tool recently came out and it was used with the pigs, and it's gonna get used again once the liner comes out onto the site. We need the hoist to actually pull the liner into place before it's inflated to the inside of the pipe. The contractors tried to use that to a minimum degree because the cable can wear against the inside of the pipe and potentially do damage. So we're trying to keep that to a minimum. So the cleaning that's done is primarily done using the jetter hose. And that last image on the right is just a close-up photograph of the 3/4 inch braided wire rope cable. So we're hopeful that the lining process will begin not next week, but the week after. Hopefully we'll receive the liner towards the end of next week. Next slide.
And the liner goes inside the existing pipe to,
Right. This is different than sewer technology where you would have a resin that cures that forms a pipe within a pipe. This is a semi-rigid but flexible pipe. It goes inside it's installed, folded up with tape wrapped around it. And then when it's inflated, pressurized, it pops the tape and then it forms up against the inside of the hose pipe. But it doesn't have rigid structural qualities that a sewer liner would have. And you really didn't need that property in this application.
You know, not a lot of pressure is going on. It's kind of submerged in Agog Pond. It's gravity feed from the intake to the gatehouse, and this is the gatehouse down here. So that's just a pipe in the ground that allows water to flow in. It's diverted over to the ozone facility and then pumped, from there into the system.
And there's generally less than 20 feet of water above the intake pipe, so it's not a lot of pressure. Okay, next slide. This is introducing the project we had talked about in the past. This is our next water distribution system improvement project in the northeast part of town. This is Old Bedford Road, Route 62. Bedford would be right, this is the town line right here. The yellow streets are effectively the project streets. We're replacing 8-inch diameter transite pipe with new 8-inch diameter ductile iron pipe. We put this project out to bid in the spring and we selected the low bid contractor, executed the contract. We've held our pre-construction conference. Friday morning, this morning, we're gonna host an on-site meeting with residents to brief the residents on what they can expect to experience during the project. We'll have water and sewer represented. We'll have engineering represented. Police will be represented. I believe we'll have someone from school busing as well represented. And I believe Aaron will join us as well, and he can speak to the trash pickup. That's one of the essential services that can't be interrupted by the project. So the contractor is intending to mobilize to begin this project the first full week after the Independence Week. So it'll be the week of the 12th, if I'm not mistaken, that the project will commence. It's due to be finished, completed by September 22nd. So it's a fairly quick pace. There's a reason for that. This neighborhood is also in the roads program. We're intending to do the curb to curb pavement on this, and the roads program contractor will be doing the preparatory work. for the existing pavement and getting binder down before winter, and then he should be coming back in the spring of 24 to finish up the top course paving.
I just sort of highlight, this is a neighborhood that has been on the radar for road work for a long period of time. We look at the other needs and knew that water main needed to happen. And we only have a budget, both roads and water main, you got to be very judicious as far as when and where do you spend the money. So neighborhood's been patient. It's sort of not unusual. So I'm sure they're hoping to have this done, by now in a plan, but based on a lot of factors, we finally got the point to sort of coordinate these things. But we do that by design, whenever possible. If there's, groundwater, utility, underground work and stormwater work, and then come back. So the goal is to get a binder course of pavement in for, before the snow flies. That's the plan.
Is this water and sewer? What
Just
are the
water,
pipes?
just water
Just water.
in this area. And I will highlight, and this is not, very transparent. This neighborhood been identified as a potential need back 20 years ago when we did the comprehensive wastewater master plan. But that need was based on some factors. The neighborhood itself didn't feel that it was, cost beneficial for them.
For sewer.
For sewer.
Yeah.
And so we proceeded with, well, we need to do the water main, and so we'll do the water main and the road work as well by design.
Thanks. This slide is showing the Pine Hill Reservoir located in Lincoln, Mass. This is one of two water storage reservoirs that the town has. It's the larger of the two. It's an underground concrete tank, twin 2.5 million gallon tanks with a common wall separating the two tank halves. Statute requires us to do, and also good practice requires us to do periodic inspections of the tank. So the last time this was done, I believe it was actually in the 2010s, 2011, 2012, thereabouts. And at the time that was done, this 5 million gallons was drained out so that it could be inspected, boots on ground, so to speak. And this time when we approached it, we solicited price quotes for a automated or remotely operated vehicle inspection. So this is newer technology. It's got good quality cameras, lights. It's remotely controlled by an operator. So it's able to get good visual inspections of the mechanical components, the metal ladder, the concrete surfaces, if there's any accumulation of sediments in the bottom, if there's any defects that require maintenance or repairs. It's a good technology, and this work took place at the tail end of May, if I'm not mistaken.
So no draining.
Yeah, it's big. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's the operation
Disruptive.
when we had to drain, it would be, probably 3 or 4 weeks, where you'd be out and inspect and then refill and disinfect and do all this stuff. And so the technology, here's sort of one of those technology advancements that have been really helpful.
Any findings? I mean,
No, at this point, nothing remarkable, which is important. Nothing that we see is, we got to start,
Spending money on-
big money, I'm sure there's going to be improvements, that are going to be identified, and then we'll just, figure out when and how that can be planned versus emergency.
Does that water cycle through or is
Yeah.
that water just sit there?
No, it goes up. We have mixing systems inside. And so basically it's your relief valve for when the system has higher demands than what we're actually pumping on any given minute. That reserve comes from the the reserve. Interesting, people often see the towers, they think of, the bulbs and that sort of, that's one kind of, storage tank that provides the same pressure. It's high and volume. Interesting with these reservoirs, and as we talk in the future and we talk about regional water and that sort of thing in reservoirs, you're probably talking about something like this, but to the tune of maybe 4 times this size to do regional, when we talk about MWRA type Metro West, but same concept. It's the relief valve, and then it's, provides that buffer during peak demands and fire flow and that sort of thing.
So the access drive is to the left of the image here. This is a fenced-in area to, there are walking paths that cross this property. So we're trying to maintain control of the site. This was Cortec, the contract service provider, and he has a tarp next to the access hatch, and this was an image we captured of the ROV. And then the far right is the image of the ROV actually in the water.
So you said two side-by-side tanks, pretty much that looks like a mowed grassed area. That's the.
Yeah, you split that, and you'd see the two chambers. Then you can take one chamber offline and do work on the other. So there's 2.5 million gallons in each.
Roughly, what's that dimension? Do you know? Is that like a football field?
It's bigger than that.
Okay.
It would be like 2 football fields.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. Let's see.
And the last slide for water and sewer that I wanted to talk about. We've been working with Woodin and Curran, who is the contract ops provider for the wastewater treatment facility. And of course, Woodin and Curran also has a design arm. We've been working on a facility plan for the treatment facility. And we've been with the facility plan, they're assessing the existing conditions of the various processes. We're looking at not only the existing loads, hydraulic and waste load, BAOD, TSS, but also projecting into the future. We have been hamstrung with 1.2 MGD discharge limit in our NIPD's permit. As the facility plan has been progressing, we've been identifying what's most urgent in terms of need, both pieces that are near the end of its useful design life or things that are health and safety concerns. So as the work has progressed, it's the consultant Woodin and Curran has been identifying what will be 3 of a series of projects to address the deficiencies and the needs of the plant. The first one would be targeted to commence with a project evaluation form application to Mass DEP for the CWSRF program. And that would be in August of this summer, while the commission is in recess. It's the very beginning of the process. This would get us onto the intended use plan for the spring of 24. This project is targeting to tackle several major components that are in need of repair. First and foremost is the trickling filters. There's a number of aspects about the trickling filters. Okay, thanks, Alan. Showing them. It's actually the biological treatment component of the treatment facility. In addition, we've got heating, ventilation, air conditioning system improvements. We need electrical system improvements, primary and secondary sludge and scum removal. These are all the nasties that make up wastewater treatment. This project would as I mentioned, we would apply for the SRF in August. We would need to have a town appropriation on the town meeting for the spring of 24. So there would have to be a dedicated article on the town meeting for 24. And then the consultant would be going into the design phase from January to October of 24. In October of 24, a specific SRF application would be submitted. And then we'd be looking to publicly bid and contract in February to April of 2025. So the actual construction, the bidding and construction is a few years out, but these are the steps of the process. This would be a Chapter 149 procurement. So we would have a general contractor and we would have filed sub-bid contractors for the work.
Jeff, what's important is we're trying to look at the federal funds, that may be available if we can become eligible. And our challenge has been recently that because we do not have environmental justice community, and this is a designation of, in trying to identify needs, communities. We don't necessarily rank very highly, but if nothing else, we can potentially get a low interest loan. Much like we were talking about with the NAGOG, treatment facility, but it's just all this work is required to put yourself in, at least to put yourself in play. It's no guarantee of any point, but it's also, this is a last upgrade in 2007. So we know it's most of the equipment served its useful life. So this is just good planning and, the assets first, facility plan, will come, and then maybe funding.
So Jeff, the work is pretty much looking at the existing plant components, what you're showing on the
The
picture here.
facility plan is,
Yeah.
right.
It's existing infrastructure and building that's there that needs improvements, upgrades, whatever.
Right.
All right. Okay, I'm going to ask, thank you, Jeff. Aaron, if you want to come up. All right.
Good evening, Aaron McCloskey, I'm ground superintendent. So update for May included some of the work that we did on Haywood Street. There was a blocked culvert, was blocked with a beaver dam. Pretty significant flooding upstream of that, down Walden Street around Public Safety Building and into some private property yards. We initially got the report from some residents after some late spring heavy rains. There was flooding over the weekend, so we responded the next week, and it took us a good 2 weeks to drain the water. Reason it took so long is because we don't want to just completely breach the dam and all that. There's a significant volume of water upstream that could potentially wash out downstream culverts, could cause some significant flooding downstream, and we don't want to cause any more damage. So we released it slowly, team effort between engineering group and my team. A lot of skilled operators there were kind of working, some of the strategies. On the right-hand side, we had a backhoe with a piece of iron pipe, kind of breaching the dam with that to still allow some water to flow. A lot of overnight kind of work just to, watch it early on. But ultimately our fleet team made a grappling hook essentially, and we were able to fish that through with the help of the jetter, and kind of run that back and forth after the water had gone down a little bit and completely cleared the beaver dam. But I'll say the beavers are back early the next day, overnight, starting to rebuild. So we're working on building a what we call a beaver deceivers device, working with a contractor to basically install wire. It's kind of like a wire fence, which roots upstream and allows the beaver to, like we want them to, build the dam outside of the culvert so that we can go and clear without having to go into the culvert to clear the dam. So that's something that's being installed here this month, that location. Sleepy Hollow Cemetery received some new lettering. You can see the word Sleepy Hollow. That was a donation from the Friends of Sleepy Hollow group. That was a gift that was accepted by the select board, endorsed by cemetery committee, and was installed. That was kind of back to the original gates at the older section of Sleepy Hollow had this similar type of lettering. So this is the newer section of the knoll. You can see that installed there. Did a lot of tree planting last month. You can see some of the crews planting some public shade trees there. We planted almost 70, right around there, trees throughout the town, both right-of-way public shade trees and some setback trees throughout town. Seasonal mowing. So this is a picture of the the loader in the distance, this is one of the filter beds up at the wastewater treatment facility. Nice open area. We're able to provide some employee training on the boom mower. You can see there's a boom flail mower there attached to the front of the loader, and we're able to kind of mow some grass and before we put that out on the road with some new folks. And then working again with water and sewer division, as well as the engineering group, we do catch basin cleaning throughout town. So we run a catch basin cleaner with a clamshell truck where we do majority of the work, inspect those. But when either there's significant buildup or material that we can't get out with the catch basin truck, the clamshell truck will call the water and sewer division. They'll send over an operator and the truck to come out and actually vac out the material from the catch basin. So you can see here, that's what they're doing.
All right.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Aaron on the projects or director's report information? Again, just to be clear, the director's report is a compilation of all of the divisions, and you know, the division heads provide me with that information. We just put it together, but they are the people who are doing the work and putting some of the words and messaging behind it. So
How was your FEMA training?
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah, in fact, Aaron, you might want to mention a little bit. That's important. This is, yeah, so we've got, you know, a lot of different talents in public works and different skills, and Aaron brings to the table, you know, sometimes the talent and interest are there, and that's the best of both worlds. But Aaron's been very involved working in a regional capacity, working with FEMA. And Aaron, you might want to describe the program that you've been involved with and sort of the value to, I'll tell you the value to Concord if you tell you the programs.
Yeah, so I work for FEMA also as a logistics specialist. FEMA has 26 urban search and rescue teams located across the country. There's one team in New England, it's Massachusetts Task Force 1. It's sponsored by the city of Beverly. So there's a large cache site up there. We have all our equipment, materials, and there's about 200 members of the team made up of different backgrounds. There's firefighters, there's folks in public safety, public works, there's doctors, nurses from the private sector, canine handlers, veterinarians, things like that. And mission of the team is we do search and rescue for structural collapse and fast water rescue. So like hurricanes or buildings, floodings, things like that. Federal government will activate teams and teams will deploy with about either 45 or 80 person team within 6 hours of activation. And we deploy for 14 days, conduct search and rescue operations.
Wow.
So you could be called all over the country, or is it
Yeah.
mostly just?
Yep,
All over
all the country,
not
yeah.
just the state.
Yeah, so most recently the team went down to Florida, Hurricane Ian in the fall. They sent 45 down there. The convoy down, they're fully self-sufficient for first 72 hours of deployment. And after that, FEMA will start to resupply. They bring everything you need, vehicles, boats, housing, the tents, HVAC, fuel, water, food.
You like it? Do you like it?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
He loves this stuff.
Really?
And it's really important because,
Yeah.
we are dealing with, emergency responses
Sure.
routinely. A snowstorm is an emergency response.
Sure.
And so, whether Aaron, I would say likes it or not, he's going to get out on the road just because he wants to see what's going on and be involved. But it also connects us with resources in the area,
Sure.
which are very important when we have, challenges. And it's a great opportunity to sort of share and learn, from the industry, when it comes to those, it's a very specialized group, and
Mhm.
we're fortunate to have someone
Cool.
like Aaron with our team. So
And I would also note that our cache site also doubles as a NERAC regional equipment cache site for municipalities in the Commonwealth. So anytime there's a local event or local disaster, for example, when we had the Monument Street culvert that was bypassed for months with trash pumps, those trash pumps came from the NERAC site where FEMA cache is located. So it's kind of a multi-use cache. It's kind of split.
Cool.
Located on the same property, so we have access to that from the town standpoint for signboards or, generators or any type of emergency equipment we might need here locally in Concord. It's easily accessible.
Great.
Great.
all right, thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve? We've got 5 minutes and we're gonna beat our record.
Really?
Sorry,
Oh, Steve Dutron again. I'm sorry.
No pressure, no pressure. Steve.
not much talent to show here. So engineering. So this is a Nurse Hill Road that we've come used to the complaints. Should be no longer because we did what's called a Cape seal.
Okay.
We put in a microsurface layer. It's looking very good up there. We've had no complaints
Oh.
since. But before we did that, we had a contractor go in and repair the edges that people complained about tripping and that kind of thing. So
That's good.
kind of a success story.
Yeah, I'd recommend take a ride up there, you'll see. And in fact, I will say, as we suggested when we did the pilot, it will improve with time. And sure enough, over time, the gravel, the uneasiness sort of dissipated. And we even got comments, people saying, yes, it's happened. It was still a little bit different. In fact, depending on your interest, some people seem to think it was okay, but we did say we'd come back and there were some areas that were wearing. And we think sort of a combination of the quality control of in the time of year when we
Timing.
applied it may have factored in, but there were some lessons learned with that.
So what did you end up, given the neighborhood's complaints or concerns? What did you end up doing? It sounds like it was improving by itself without any intervention,
That's right.
but what did you end up doing on top of that?
So it's the original application was what we call the asphalt rubber chip seal.
Yes.
So there's a lot of
Yes.
loose chips
We
that
heard about.
you had to sweep up. The application we did is called micro surfacing. It's a
Right.
different treatment that we did on some other streets
Yeah,
last year. Prairie, Wright, Hildreth. And so that's what we ended up putting. It's another thin layer,
so you put that on top of the chip seal?
right? And it's called a Cape seal at this
And
point.
it's smoother,
Yeah,
and that's really what it brings, just sort of more, kind of a smoother surface. If you drive it, you'll see the
Okay.
difference, and you'll see even down on some of Nurse Neck, it isn't chip sealed, microsurfaced, but
Between College and Strawberry, that's the original chip seal. We did not microsurface.
And the real concerns significantly dissipated, but this was sort of because of the wear and tear we saw in some spots, this was a treatment that was, worth that, and again, I think.
okay,
Good lessons learned on that.
thank you.
Okay,
So on the
Oh,
photograph to the left, that's a stormwater treatment at Giro Park, which is constructed. And why we're highlighting it here is the Assabet River is by EPA, it's declared as a phosphorus impaired water body. And our MS4 program, we've discussed, stormwater program. We need to take efforts to try and reduce that impairment. And so Delia earlier talked about the Neshoba Brook having phosphorus as well. And Neshoba is a tributary to the Assabet. So we're currently in year 6 of the MS4 permit, and we are required year 6 to do demonstration projects where we're reducing phosphorus. So Saul, a new engineer hire, he went ahead and he calculated the amount of phosphorus reduction because of this installation that was done for Gerald Park, and we 90% reduction this particular facility is doing. So we're taking credit. We're going to report this as an improvement. So, and then the photograph to the right is a small sidewalk project on Sudbury Road. We're working, it's a private-public partnership with the owner of that property. They wanted the sidewalk repaired, and obviously, we didn't have sidewalk money, so they said they will do it. And all we need to do is contribute half the cost of the construction. And so they went ahead and decided doing the work. The other thing is that there's a significant tree there that the roots were uplifting the sidewalk. So we wanted to avoid impacting that tree. And the sidewalk and part of the sidewalk ends up being on their property. So they're giving us an easement, and you will see at the next town meeting, an easement before the town for approval. In the meantime, in order for us to use this, we have given them or we are in the process of giving them a license agreement. Maybe it's the reverse. They're giving us so that we can use as for public. So it's that. I think that's the last one, right?
Yay.
But while I have your attention, I didn't want to interrupt your discussion on the scenic road because the momentum was there. But I wanted, and I didn't respond. I sent you the email. The definition of the stone wall, it's a very good definition that you came up with. Your consideration I wanted was, is there an age that you're gonna put to the stone wall? For instance, like we built some stone walls, like we will do if you have a significant road project like on Cambridge Turnpike. If Cambridge Turnpike were to be declared a scenic road, do those stone walls become? And they're just like two years old.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's historic.
So
Okay.
something to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
On the report here, it mentioned the Main Street, Walden Street intersection. And the fact that the plans were submitted to the Shared Street program and they had concerned about ADA access. And I'm just wondering, I know this project was brought up before and there was some concerns voiced about the ADA treatment there, the ramps where they were placed. So did something happen between that meeting and now to address that, or is this because of the original design that was?
So the design could not be changed because of the limitations.
Yeah.
Locations, you have utilities and so on. So the problem, not a problem, but the issue with the board, the access board still exists.
Yeah.
And what we're required to do is submit a waiver,
Right,
and which we have done by letter.
okay.
So we're waiting on the response.
Did the designer recommend a waiver was needed before we got to this point, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the other one was on Jeff's report talking about the water work on, is it Minot or however you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Butternut
Minot,
paper.
Yeah.
butternut, yeah.
Might not, thank
Yeah.
you, not Minot.
Well, it depends.
It's the French version. And we had talked, we have our roadway design guidelines or whatever,
Standards. yeah.
standards, yeah. So I know you guys are working on, is there a need to update those standards? So anyway, coming to that, looking at that project and the roadway work that's going to occur, are we looking at roadway widths, and is there any opportunity to narrow roadways and decrease the amount of impervious pavement or other types of things that might be applied to that project, since we're going to go in and resurface, and maybe not just resurface what's there if there's a way to improve things?
We are somewhat always on the lookout for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And for this, because it's not ready yet, we haven't done all the design work.
Okay,
But yeah, we will seek that opportunity.
okay,
We will have to discuss with the public
Right.
if there's a plan to do so.
Yeah. good. That's all, thanks. Sorry,
Any other questions?
go over.
Okay.
Let me see if the public has
Yeah,
questions.
anybody in the public or anyone else wanna? Oh, there's a hand raised, Carlin. Thank you. Hi, Carlin.
Unmute.
Yeah, that would help. That would help a lot. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Carlin Reed, 83 Whitson, going back to the wastewater treatment presentation. I heard the words warrant article. I did not hear an estimate of the dollar amount. How many millions of dollars are we going to be looking at for a warrant article for the wastewater group? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, well, that, Carlin, we anticipate it's going to be millions over a few years, and that's what the work we're doing presently is to help us identify. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve on our outreach and notification, but I think we're learning the cycle well. So this is just a heads up that it's on our radar. And really, to qualify for funding, we're gonna need better, monies and sort of identify what those projects would be. And that's what we're gonna be doing in, late summer.
Got it. Thank you.
I think Robert, did you have a question too, Robert? No, okay. Was that everyone else?
Okay.
All right. I think that's it. Do we have a move to adjourn?
No, well. What is it? 6:02. So I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Yeah.
Is it not that?